Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. I'm excited to speak with Derwyn Harris on the show today. Derwyn is the Chief Product Officer and co-founder of Talkoot. Derwyn has an extensive background in software development and was co-founder of Jama Software. Currently, he manages product strategy, development, and market position to help Talkoot grow and share their numerous strengths as a product. Derwyn tells us about how he got into product strategy, his experience as events manager at Outside Magazine, and his thoughts on how branding might evolve in the next few years. Enjoy. Hey, Derwyn, welcome to the show. Great to speak with you today.
Thanks, Rick. Great to be here.
Yeah, good to chat. So we first met at Outdoor Retailer. You were given a panel conversation or a presentation right before the panel I hosted, and I caught the tail end of yours. Was pretty interesting, and thanks for staying through ours. That was some pretty interesting conversations that we had there with some folks.
It was very lively, that's for sure.
That's right, yeah. And you've got a strong technical background in software and stuff. Tell us how you got into product strategy. How'd that shift come about?
Yeah, it definitely was not a direct path. I went through a lot of different career changes throughout, but I finally fell into technology as a developer. I went to basically a course to learn Java development, and then sort of worked my way into consulting. Worked on a lot of different projects with a lot of different companies. And it's sort of a natural evolution from there. I like to say that it's a natural evolution for those that aren't incredibly technical. I was good enough technical to do well. But ultimately, I'm a people person. I like to look at processes and make things work more efficiently. And so it's sort of a natural place to move into. I also like to create and build things. And product strategy is really that role that sort of helps you guide and work with the team to build and create things. So it sort of felt like a natural evolution, though I wouldn't have said that's where I would have ended up if you'd asked me 10 years ago.
I don't think any of us would have said we're there, or not many of us anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, and you're one of the co-founders of Talkoot, right?
I am.
Am I saying that right?
I came in a little later stage. Talkoot.
Talkoot.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Actually, it's a good question because it's a Finnish word.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's some folks out there that might, with a better accent, could say it differently. But that's how I say it.
Okay. Good. Yeah. And how'd that come about?
Well, it's actually through a friend. So I was one of the co-founders for a different company named Jama Software, also located here in Portland. And I'd sort of been there for 10 years, building it from 3 people to 160.
Wow.
And it just sort of grew into a much larger thing. And myself being more of an advocate for the smaller fast growing companies. And also, as I mentioned, going through a lot of changes in careers. I love change. I love a new challenge. And so a friend introduced me to Brian. We had lunch. And it just was a perfect fit, primarily because it was a SaaS solution, which I had just spent 10 years working on, and because it was really in an industry that I was excited to sort of get back into.
Yeah, you spent some time with Outside Magazine. What was that like?
I did. Yeah, so I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Outside Magazine moved from Chicago to Santa Fe. And I had some friends there that I knew. I was working at a cable company at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have done almost everything.
It's crazy. If I was to go through the list, it would be long and very different. But yeah, Outside Magazine, I was the events manager there. So they had what's called a value add program where sales would sell to brands pages, but then they would provide value add opportunities to participate in different events. So I basically sought out events for Outside Magazine to participate in, and then worked with the companies, the brands, to do product placement and come up with ideas and concepts for helping them promote their wares. Yeah.
That'd be pretty fun.
It was a blast. Yeah. There's no question. And there's some funny stories, like when Irish Spring sent cases of their soap at the Mammoth Mountain mountain bike championships, and I think the entire mountain smelled like Irish Spring for a week.
I've never heard that story around Mammoth. That's funny. Yeah. It might still smell that way. You never know.
It probably does. Yeah. It forever smells gloriously.
Yeah. And how did you get connected into the outdoor industry? Or how did you get inspired to? Have you always been an outdoor guy? Had you always been, outdoor activities?
I have all. Yeah. It's funny because I don't know to what degree I feel connected to the outdoor industry. I feel very connected to the outdoors. I had grown up, having grown up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. My dad was a huge advocate for backpacking, and we went backpacking all the time. I mean, we had a VW bus, and we drove out into the wilds of Santa Fe or up into Colorado. And then I was in the search and rescue team when I was in college, going to St. John's College again in Santa Fe. Mm-hmm. And so, and I had skied my entire life, hitchhiking up every single weekend to go skiing, which I don't know if it's possible to do those kinds of things today, but
I think it is. We see a lot of folks hitchhiking over here up and down the Eastern Sierra. Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, 395. Mostly it's backpackers. Yeah, it's mostly backpackers. Yeah. Awesome. So you've been an outdoor enthusiast your entire life, probably.
Absolutely. Gotcha. Big fan. And now, and it shifts. Now it's surfing and sailing. But it was soccer and mountain climbing, and skiing and snowboarding. But I think when that got a bit more expensive and moving into a city like Portland, you sort of adjust and got into cycling and did cyclocross race and mountain bike racing.
Yeah,
a lot of different outdoor.
Yeah. So you and Brian had lunch, and that's how you came to Talkoot, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And what do you do? So Brian was telling us that he's kind of like the 50,000 foot guy at Talkoot, and he does a lot of the strategy and stuff. What's your role there? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So that was the great part about the conversation is he had sort of he'd gotten this idea for a solution to really help his writing agency work better. Like they were writing all the product content for Adidas globally. And I'm not sure to what degree he told the whole story.
Yeah, he was telling us about that. Yeah, 50,000 words.
So Adidas was essentially saying, Adidas was saying, so we want you to write all the product copy for, thousands upon thousands of products. And just that kind of thing is very difficult to scale. Mm-hmm. And so he realized he needed a solution to help him accomplish that and couldn't find it. So decided to build it himself. And after a couple of years of building the software, realized very quickly that this is actually something that other companies could use.
Yeah.
But at that moment, he sort of realizes, I don't understand the world of software. I don't understand the world of selling and building SaaS cloud-based solutions. He is that visionary. He understands storytelling and brand. But in terms of software development and strategy, it was a new concept to him. And so for me to be coming off of a 10-year startup, it was a perfect opportunity to sort of mesh our skills, what to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you built this thing out, and now you guys use it for clients around the world, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I would say that I'm helping scale it out.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
It's he really sort of came up with the original idea and worked to build it with Ann Bowman, who also works at Talkoot, and so I kind of came in and said, all right, how do we really take this to scale?
Mm-hmm. And so we were talking a little bit about some of your clients. Who are some of your, in addition to the outdoor guys, what are some of your other clients? I see on your website, Boeing and Honeywell. Those are some pretty big customers.
They're great. It's exciting customers.
Yeah.
Mountain Hardwear, Burton, Doc Martens, Adidas. These are just
SpaceX. That's got to be fun.
Well, SpaceX was at JAMA. That was.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, so at my previous company, we had some amazing customers as well, but very much more in the tech industry, complex requirements, where Talkoot is really focused on brands selling sort of B2C type products. Mm-hmm. So that's where you get Burton and those kinds of folks.
And what percentage of your brand, I guess most of them are in the outdoor recreation space?
right now, that's where our passion is. That's where our familiarity is. And that's where a lot of our contacts are. And so we're focusing very heavily on the outdoor industry as well. There's a natural evolution into apparel and fashion.
Yeah.
But from there, we could foresee in the future home goods, cosmetics, electronics,
right,
and those other industries. But right now, the outdoor industry is it's going through such a change right now that it's really perfect timing for a solution like this. They need a solution like this more than anything.
Yeah, a lot of these brands are coming off some, either they've got a great strong history and they've woven that into a good story, or some of them, have completely ignored their founders and their history, and they need to go back to that. I mean, it's pretty interesting to see how that has been neglected over the years. So I'm sure that's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how do you think that's going to evolve over the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think it's going to continue down the way it's going, or do you think it's going to shift a little bit? Brian and I talked a little bit about this fake news world we're in these days, where things, you got to double check to make sure what you're reading is accurate. That could shift the game a bit for us.
Yeah, I mean, people care deeply about feeling connected to what they purchase and what they do, and they have the choice to do that. And as we've seen, we've read in other articles that people have become much more research savvy, and they have the ability to dive deep into finding the truth. And I think especially in this sort of, I don't know whether we call it yet the post fake news era, but maybe hopefully we're going there.
Yeah.
People are going to become that much more in tune with seeking out the truth and seeking out information because they have access to it and they just need to find it. So, I think the evolution's really going to continue to splinter. When you think about sports in general and apparel and product goods, it's splintering to the point that people have so many different interests.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the music industry, where I remember as a kid, you had to go to the record store and you only knew a few bands. There were a few kids in school that knew a lot of bands, but it wasn't as accessible. But now with Spotify, it's so accessible, and it's broadened the opportunity, but it's also leveled it out. It's kind of like the industry is being socialized a little bit.
Right.
And we're going through some acquisitions, but at the same time, there's a ton of new, what we call digital natives, starting up and succeeding. And so it's a very dynamic environment that we're in. And I foresee more of that. I don't see much consolidation. I actually see it continuing to expand, and companies finding this nice, happy place to exist as a successful company without being a behemoth, right? So that'll be the interesting dynamics of the future.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's interesting, because we've seen a lot of, founders and startups that have come on the scene. You go to that whole venture out section at the trade show, and that's where most of those guys live. And it's beautiful because they don't have these desires to be these big, huge corporate companies. And then you look at some of the brands that have been purchased by, some corporations own 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 brands. Some of them compete against one another. And it's got to be tough to keep all those stories straight. But I love the small startup, and keep it small and just sustainable, and away we go. That's a good direction, I think.
And there's a mindset of craftsmanship and entrepreneurialism that's pervasive in the culture right now, that even for those CEOs or those founders that start a company and they get acquired, oftentimes they're leaving after a year and starting yet another company.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is going to continue.
Yeah.
And so that's a wonderful thing in my mind, because then there's just so much variety and constant innovation occurring as people are constantly experimenting and trying new things.
Yeah. I think there's a more attention to detail and craftsmanship in some of the smaller brands, and I think those guys can be more nimble and innovative in a lot of ways. They don't have this big monstrosity of production to move in a direction that they want to go. So
they're going to have to be.
Yeah. And tell us about some of the nonprofit work you guys are doing.
Myself or us?
Either one. You guys or Talkoot? Both? Either or?
Yeah, I mean, we're a relatively small company, so we'll definitely seek out ways of doing some more nonprofit work and reaching out to the community. Myself, I'm on the board of what's called the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network.
Oh, interesting.
And so I've tried to really involve myself in the entrepreneurial spirit of Oregon. I'm mostly in Portland, but OEN in particular is an Oregon-wide nonprofit, really trying to help entrepreneurs, grow their company and succeed. And really, it goes back to that whole notion of helping those folks with great ideas sort of evolve into a legitimate company and what that takes.
That's great. So do you guys have access to some incubator type things and funding, or is it mostly strategy and, advisory kind of things?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a lot of advisory, a lot of educational series. They've done funding in the past and will continue to do some funding. There's quite a bit of other organizations that do funding. So the idea is to connect entrepreneurs with those groups. So OEN really is designed to be a network, a connector of entrepreneurs to mentors, educational series,
cool.
Funding, things like that. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
that's
it's really
awesome.
great. It's a fun group, and it's a fun, exciting, enthusiastic group to be part of.
I'll bet you meet some great people and see some cool concepts. I can imagine. Yeah,
definitely.
Tell us about one of the coolest things that you've seen lately, or is there one?
Oh, well.
Putting you on the spot. Sorry, that was not on the list.
I know. Yeah, I know. No, it's great. I think our focus right now has been primarily as a board is really helping OEN evolve into the future.
Gotcha.
Because, Oregon there's a lot of other groups out there, Technical Association of Oregon, PI, that do similar things. And so OEN, which has been around for a very long time, is learning to evolve as well. They have such a wealth of contacts and information and programs in place that they're just looking to. They're kind of rebranding themselves.
Oh, interesting. How long have they been around?
Now you're going to put me on the spot again.
Many years.
I'm a new board member, so I guess I should have this at the tip of my tongue.
But longer than 20 years,
around
kind
for
of
decades.
Thing? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, we'll find them and link to them in the show notes. That's interesting.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Here's a softball question for you then. We'll go from a hard one to an easy one. What are some outdoor activities you participate in? I know you're an active guy.
Yeah. No, I would love to still be playing soccer, but I'm turning 50 this year, so the knees are not cooperating. But we've been doing a lot of sailing lately. So sailing's a big thing. My wife's a fantastic swimmer. She didn't swim in college, but she basically grew up swimming, so she's kind of pulled me into that world. But surfing's a big thing for us. Sailing, cross-country skiing. I shifted over into cross-country skiing after I sort of I got over my love for downhill skiing and snowboarding. I'd done it for so long. I still miss it. But there's something wonderful about cross-country skiing, and it could be because I got into cycling and really got into the athleticism of a sport. And that's one of those sports that demands a lot out of you.
Yeah. And did you open water swimming?
Ooh, that's a tricky question because I'm technically scared of water. I'm learning. I think surfing is interesting for me because being on the board and being in a wetsuit, you feel safe. But whenever I swim in open water, every time my ear hits the water, it's almost like you can hear the depths.
I am the same way. You're
life
right.
under there.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, I've had that same feeling. Yeah.
And it's ironic you asked because tomorrow I am starting my first class in scuba diving because my wife is a scuba diver. And she said, we're going to go scuba diving because if we're sailing and we're sailing around, it's a great opportunity to go scuba diving as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'll really test whether or not I'm claustrophobic or whether or not it's just a fear of big dangerous fish or if I can get over it all.
Right. No, you're right. That's interesting. I was a river guide for many years, but when I would go jump in a lake and just try to swim, man, I had a tough time with it. It was
right.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. Yeah, I can relate. And do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to, get into the outdoor industry or a business like you guys are doing, even software, if they want to do that, or maybe take their software experience like you did and translate it into an outdoor career? Yeah,
it's interesting because that's exactly the angle I would sort of take. I mean, the thing I'm seeing is that outdoor industry or brands and retailers are looking to technology in order to stay current and move faster. And there's not only an understanding of technology that you can bring to the table, but there's practices and workflows that software has figured out. I'm a big proponent of the agile software development methodology that exists. And I did this in my talk a little bit. I talked about how those concepts can really be applied to organizations selling, brands and or retailers. Right. And so I would say anyone looking to get into, if someone is passionate about the outdoors, now is a great time. If you're in the technology sector, working on some software company that I don't want to, that sells to other, server brands, but you love
no, I totally agree.
Outdoor companies. Now's a great time because your expertise in the technology world is really needed greatly in the outdoor industry as well. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to sort of move around.
Yeah, I agree. I think the outdoor industry is finally getting to the next level of development of the industry, right? I mean, we started out as just a bunch of guys starting businesses. You threw up a sign that said outdoor and sold fleece and you were in business. And now, some of these brands have been pretty significant and owned by larger corporations. So there's a need for economists and software guys and all kinds of different varieties. So if you're passionate about the outdoors, don't wait. Go talk to some of these folks. That's great advice.
Yeah. I mean, we hired a data scientist at JAMA, and I could definitely see a data scientist being valuable. I'm sure actually a lot of outdoor companies are looking at or have hired folks like that, but that's an important area as well, especially as people sort of shift to more of a D2C, a direct-to-consumer.
Yeah.
Suddenly they have data available to them that they didn't have before that they need to use to iterate and adjust what they're building and how they're building. I mean, there's great examples out there of companies who are much more direct-to-consumer and are using the data in order to adjust their company very quickly on the fly to stay relevant.
Right. No, that's great advice. Yeah. And do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity?
Oh, routines. I wish I had a routine. I am horrible at keeping a routine. It's impossible. And the more
that's funny for a software guy. You would think that you would be all over a routine.
I know.
Yeah. Huh.
I know.
Maybe
that's a great article.
As we all, there's one thing we do in work, and then we just completely abandon that when we get in our personal lives.
Yeah. I think there's something about the chaos of product management where you have to be very good at going with the flow. You have to be able to adjust and react. And that chaos doesn't work well for folks with solid routines. Routines get in the way oftentimes. And so my mindset has been, I allow the chaos to consume me and I deal with the chaos as best I can. And what I do is I just reserve moments in time, and those moments in time aren't scheduled. It's sort of like entropy. There's just a point of time where it's so clear to me that I have to step back and reorganize things, clear my desk, organize my to-dos, write down on a piece of paper what I should be focused on, and basically do a quick reset. And and that's helped me kind of react and go with the flow and be present in the moment, while also allowing myself an opportunity to step back, look at the big picture and readjust. And I think it's those moments where I get my sanity back, and then I have my sanity, but it slowly slips away. And then I do the reset.
Yeah. And do you find yourself doing that? It probably depends on the day, but is it multiple times a day, or how does that manifest itself?
It's probably once a week, sometimes once a month. It really depends on how chaotic things get, or how much I feel that I've lost control. Maybe that's a way of, because I'm okay with losing a little bit of control. I'm okay with things being chaotic, but when you suddenly feel like you're behind every decision, you're behind every moment, then that's when you have to step back and kind of get ahead of it.
That makes sense.
And I think it's a mistake to think that you're going to get ahead of it by just plowing forward. oftentimes it's those moments where you step back and reorganize things that you actually are able to get ahead of it. That's worked for me. It may not work for everybody, but it's worked for me.
Well, everybody has their own thing, right? We all do our thing. What about some of your favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often?
I don't give books as gifts, but I definitely recommend books all the time. The ones that come to mind, there's a couple. One of them is called Orbiting the Giant Hairball. Have you heard of that one by Gordon MacKenzie?
Yep. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard about it. I got to get it.
It's fantastic. It's a quick, easy, short, fun read. He works at Hallmark, and you'd be surprised to know that Hallmark is just this huge bureaucracy, large company, slow-moving, command and control type organization. And he really sort of reflects on how within that you can sort of build a more nimble, more agile, more innovative group within an organization like that. So all hope is not lost if you feel that you're sort of being consumed by a larger organization, or you're being locked out by a larger organization. You can actually overcome that. And that's why I like this book. Right.
I'll have to pick that up. It's been on my list for a while.
Yeah.
So
the other one is Creativity Inc.
Oh, that's a great one.
It's great. And it's just, there's some great examples in there of how to create safe mechanisms for collaboration.
Yep.
Because I'm a big fan of organizations that collaborate heavily and find a way to empower their employees. In today's day and age where innovation is so critical, you have to allow for innovation to occur with an organization. It can't happen from the top down.
Right.
And that requires a different kind of organization. And I think he does a great job of allowing that to occur in that example.
He does a great job in that book of explaining the process too, of how they do that.
Right?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I love that book. Yeah. Good. Any others?
I guess the last one, it's my favorite book of all time, probably is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It just reiterates the absurdity of it all. And it's just good for us to remember how absurd life is.
Yeah, that's right.
There's so many self-help books out now. I think every so often we just need to step back and say, we've evolved into such crazy beings that we still don't understand.
It is pretty interesting. That's a good one. What is your favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100?
Recently or in general?
Yeah, either way. In general, something that you bought recently that you love, can't live without.
Ever since I moved to Portland, I have become a huge fan of hats. And I refuse to call them beanies.
Okay. What did you call them?
Beanies? I call them hats.
Hats, okay.
But everybody loves, just those warm hats that go over your, not like a cowboy hat or a baseball cap, but just, and realistically, maybe that's why I should call it a beanie, because it describes it more accurately of what it is. But I've always just called it a hat. Anyways, I have so many hats and I do not leave my house without a hat, and I will always pick up another hat at any store I'm in.
Gotcha. I have a buddy of mine that does the same thing. He's got everyone.
You never have enough hats.
Yeah. Well, when we live in cold climates like you and I do, you got to have one. I mean, it's a must have in your pocket all the time.
When you lose so much energy out of your head, and my wife's an acupuncturist, so there's probably some kind of chi, wind chi invasion that causes you to get sick, and I've just become overly sensitive to that. Maybe. Yeah.
No, that's good. I like that. And anything else you would like to ask or say to the audience before we wrap up?
I guess if I was to, I like to just highlight to folks, I'm very accessible, and I'm very interested in meeting. I mean, because I've been in and out of the industry and been in so many different industries, I don't necessarily think of myself as that person that's so in tune with the industry and have been in it since day one. And because of that, I'm interested in meeting, whether it's interview folks, things like your podcast is fantastic because it gives me insights. But I am very interested to understand and talk to folks about how the concepts of software development can be applied in the outdoor industry, right? And even in other industries as well. But as we're going through these changes, I think we're really going to have to work with each other to figure out what's working and not working. And these things have to happen quickly, because it is happening so fast. And one of your earlier questions was, what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years? That is so far away.
It is. Yeah.
It's going to happen in 1 to 2 years.
Well, you're right. When you look back at what's happened in the last couple of years, it's like, holy cow, I mean, I should change that to 1 to 2 years, maybe. Yeah. No, that's good perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what is the disruption going to be? I mean, I just today read an article that Adidas has been working with another company to build what's called speed factories.
Oh, wow.
And the goal there is to be able to produce products extremely fast. And it's that kind of disruption that's going to change. And then you've got Amazon creating stores where there's no cash registers.
Right.
That kind of disruption has almost instantaneous changes across an industry. And it's hard to predict what those changes are going to be or when they're going to happen. But you have to have an organization that's ready to adapt at any moment. So that's the thing, is to create an organization that's at least nimble and ready to adapt, so that when that happens, you're prepared.
Right. Yeah. So how can people find you to talk about all those and get your opinions and advice? And LinkedIn, or what's your...
LinkedIn's a great way.
Okay.
I find LinkedIn to be the more professional platform for having a conversation. I know that there's direct messaging in Twitter, but I haven't. Maybe it's my age.
No, I'm the same. I post things on Twitter, but I don't communicate much on it.
That's right. The beauty of my name is it's so easy to find me as long as you spell it with a Y, Derwyn. I have the URL Derwyn.com. There's a blog, and I link to my Instagram and all those places.
Oh, perfect.
But any one of those places is a great avenue.
Great. Well, we'll put links to all that in the show notes. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Great. Well, thanks, Derwyn. It's been great chatting with you. I look forward to seeing you again someday. We didn't get to talk much at Outdoor Retailer, so.
Well, there'll be more in the future.
Yep, we'll be there again in January or something, I guess, right?
Yep.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the time. Thanks. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up soon.
You as well. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Derwyn Harris. You can catch up with him on the interwebs on LinkedIn. He's Derwyn Harris. That's DerwynHarris. His blog at Derwyn.com and Talkoot.com. You find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode/081. And be sure to hit your favorite podcast app and to subscribe to the show today. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by InMotion Hosting. I've used InMotion Hosting to host my websites for years. Rick Say's Photos blog, Stillwater's Consulting, and the Outdoor Biz podcast are all hosted with InMotion Hosting. If your New Year's resolution is to publish a blog, produce a podcast, or simply secure a domain name, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion and sign up with them today. They make it simple and quick to get a new site up and running with easy installation tools. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion. Get going today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure and make time to get outside.